It's good to be back in Colombia and in Cartagena in particular. I'm going to take you on a tour through the 7 Cartagena neighborhoods that you're probably going to want to visit or may need to know about. But if you find yourself accidentally in one of them, and I'll get to that one later, you'll need to keep your head on a swivel. Now, this condo is in the central neighborhood, and there are 3 neighborhoods within the walled city. And when people refer to the walled city, this is what they're talking about. The walls were a project that lasted nearly 2 centuries. It was started in 1614 and it wouldn't be finished until about 1796. It was constructed with the aim of defending the city from the continuous pirate attacks that it suffered. The historic center is surrounded by about 11 kilometers of stone walls that are complemented by fortifications and bastions and different gun ports and cannon emplacements. Its construction began on September 8th of 1614 after the attack of the legendary Sir Francis Drake. While this fortress was being built, the city was constantly being invaded by pirates. Therefore, the defense was complemented with the imposing castle of San Felipe. We'll check that out later when we talk about the neighborhood of Manga. So it took almost 200 years for this sucker to be completed. So the city was designed and built in the 15th through 18th centuries by Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese engineers. So the city has this distinct vibe from those countries. And if you live in the United States or Mexico, it's a cheap way to visit a surrogate version of those European countries. The walled city and the neighborhoods in it are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now out there in the distance is the neighborhood of Boca Grande. That's where all the big name hotels are. But we'll get to that later. First, let's talk about the 3 neighborhoods in the walled city. And since we're here in Costa, let's start with that. First though, let me talk about the elephant in La Casa, and that's safety. You will see a lot of clickbait videos like, "I was robbed and sodomized in Cartagena," or "This woman who I met over Tinder and had a meaningful relationship drugged me and cut out my liver and left me in the bathtub of ice." Well, I'll tell you, I can't say that doesn't happen, but I have one basic rule of safety, and that is,
whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that? And if they would, I do not do that thing.
I can't think of a city in the United States that I have felt safer in than the walled city of Cartagena. It's been a long time since I felt safe, and some nights I was out in the streets until 3 a.m. I would have to say that Costa is my second favorite neighborhood. So here's 3 ups and 3 downs to Barrio Costa. 1, it's centrally located and it's full of restaurants and bars. 2, it's chock full of historical and cultural sites. And the restaurants here are higher end. And if you like romantic dinners, this is a good place to have them. Now, the 3 downs are, it's probably overall the most expensive neighborhood in the walled city. This is also where you'll have the most people pulling at your meat to buy something. If you don't like that, you'll find it bothersome. Oddly enough, I don't mean being asked if I want cocaine or white coffee as they refer to it, probably because I'm thirsty for the human interaction. And third, this is where the ugly Americans seem to congregate. I'm probably more sensitive to groups of foreigners being loud because that was me 25 years ago. Well, actually that was me now. But anywho, we ate at San Valentin restaurant twice. Once for lunch and the other for dinner. Both meals were great. And this is where we met and engaged in a great conversation with Senor Sebastian and Senor Alejandra. Man, what a great set of young professionals. They are an example of the types of people you can meet at the mid-range sit-down restaurants that have great AC. You can meet great people in Colombia everywhere, but I find that in the mid to upper range restaurants that are not touristy, that is, people are actually less guarded. Bottom line is, I give this restaurant 2 thumbs up with an extra toe. You'll find something you like to eat and the price is reasonable. And there's a menu outside the door so you can suss out whether or not you want to go in. Then we have San Diego, just northish of Centro, and I found this to be where some of the best sports bar hookah joints were. I have smoked hookah in 6 different joints in cities in Colombia, and to this day, the best one I found was in the mountain town of Salento, run by a dude who was really into his hookah, if you know what I mean. I kind of digress, but I consider San Diego Centro light. You may actually find that unless you have an Airbnb over there, you may not even make it to San Diego, although the square with the Fernando Bolero statue sort of straddles the neighborhoods of Costa and San Diego. And I'll tell you, if you find yourself in Bogota, be sure to check out the Bolero Museum. When I went there, before I went, I downed a few beers and I walked it, and I found it to be beautiful and to be an expansive exhibition of his works. And you know what? I find I really like me some Bolero women. 3 ups to this neighborhood is it's a bit quieter than Centro. The beaches are not as touristy as, say, Boca Grande, and they are close by San Diego. And if Centro is not your vibe, San Diego, as I said, is a Centro light. The 3 downs are really a lighter version as the same downs as Centro, so I won't rehash those. And now it's on to Getsemani. Well, you can walk there from Centro by coming out of the Clock Tower Square and walking through the park. When you do that, if you're lucky, you'll see the monkeys, and if you're real lucky, you'll see the sloths. It amazes me that they have learned to thrive in that busy place. Don't bypass the park so fast. There's a bevy of activity going along the fringes of that park, and I think you might just enjoy the stroll. I decided that I have got to make a solo video of Getsemani. So that's what I'm going to do. But I'll still give you enough here to orient you to the neighborhood in relation to the others, and at the same time give you a taste of what's going on there. If you haven't guessed it, hands down, Getsemani is my favorite neighborhood. It's fun, it's lively, it's age appropriate. And by age appropriate, I mean for me. It's safe with a generous police presence. It's artsy, it's fartsy, it's historic. The prices are the best in the walled city, and for me, it's more like home. Prostitution is not as heavy in this neighborhood. And let me say this again, prostitution is legal in that country. I respect them. Everything is totally copacetic with them. But what it means to me is there aren't as many ugly Americans running around. So I know that might sound unfair, but you know, one thing leads to another, and then before long, you got war in Poland or something. I don't know. But I'll tell you, what I would love to hear from any of you out there is whether or not you either agree or disagree with me and the reasons why, and exactly what is your favorite neighborhood, and I will go look into that. I'll have to tell you, after 3 visits to this town, I just can't see where it's not the best all-around neighborhood. That is, if you like trying the flavor of a different country. So bottom line is, I'm going to do a separate video dedicated to Getsemani. Okay, so far we've checked out the 3 neighborhoods within the walled city. So now let's scoot down the coast about 3 or 4 miles and about a $4 taxi fare to Boca Grande. Well, what can I say about Boca Grande that hasn't already been said about Clearwater Beach, Florida in the United States? I'm going to mix some of the ups and downs because depending on what you're looking for, some of these things might be an up or a down for you. Number 1, it certainly is the most upscale neighborhood of the 7, and with that, the most expensive. It's the closest you'll get to being back in Europe or the US, because beside the high-end condos, bars, and casinos, English is fairly common here. All of the name brand eateries and hotels that you recognize from Europe and the US are here, from Hilton to McDonald's. The beaches are definitely nice, and as usual, the people that work here are really nice too. You'll see in the film that I wanted to make sure I went out there for high tide so you could see that many of the roads become flooded. I've never been here during rainy season, but it looks like the roads here can become easily inundated. They are, however, doing quite a bit of sea abatement. How that works out, only time will tell. Boca has a spring break vibe to it, with the party buses and the overall younger crowd. But I have to hand it to Boca for their fine dining and eateries too. This is definitely an eating and drinking neighborhood. On this particular day, we posted up at La Linea Bar and Restaurant, and I was downing about 3 different types of ceviche and numerous beers. And it was actually moderately priced. Boca is a great place for someone who doesn't travel overseas very much, but wants to dip their toe in. I think types of travelers like this will find this neighborhood well within their comfort zone. If you like meat and ceviche and easygoing live music, I can easily recommend La Linea Restaurant. We visited Boca Grande twice this particular trip, each time catching a taxi to and from either Centro or Getsemani. I think that's the best way for me to spend my time in Boca. I would rate Boca as very safe. Now, let's go across the bay to Manga. Manga is definitely not as touristy, and it has an authentic everyman vibe to it. We went there twice this trip. The first was to go to the fantastic mall they have there, the Plaza Mall. This mall is reminiscent of the malls in their heyday in the United States. The second time we went there, we rented the boat, and it left out of there to go to the Rosario Island. That video will be coming out soon, and I'm going to name it something like Going to Rosario Islands Like a Baller, or something like that, because we really did do it up. Manga is a quieter neighborhood compared to the others, but there are some reasonable Airbnbs and hotels there. But as for safety, I'm not going to gush over it like I did the other 4 neighborhoods, but I would rate it moderately safe. However, Basilio San Felipe is on the edge of Manga, but chances are you'll approach the Basilio from the north and not go through Manga. Now, let's pop out the back of Manga and go to a lesser known neighborhood, and that's Alto Bosque, or Bosque, as it's called among the locals. To be honest, I'm not even sure if that's what gringos call the neighborhood, but that's what our Colombian handlers called it. Although there's a lot to do in this neighborhood, as a tourist, you should stay within the confines of the club block that includes Delirium, Bacalao, and Majestic Premium Bar, among other bars. It reminds me of the neighborhood I grew up in Carbondale, and we called that area the Levee. It's a hip-hop, reggaeton, salsa-heavy vibe with street food, bouncers, and action going on all around you. I had a good time. The drinks flow freely there, and the dancing is hot and sweaty. I feel it incumbent upon me, though, to say that I was the only white guy there, and besides myself and my friend, I didn't knowingly see any other gringos. Now, that's not either good or bad, depending on what you're looking for. This may be just the spot for you. For whatever reason, I did not sense any danger to myself or my friend. It could have been because we had handlers with us, and I'll have a video coming out on handlers, or plugs as they are called in the slang vernacular. I would rate this neighborhood for you as moderately safe. For me, it was very safe. Let's go on to the last neighborhood, and that's La Maria. I'm just going to throw it out there for what I perceive it to be.
You see a sign that say this is the hood. That means leave. Get the hell on.
I wanted to check it out in the day, and we still didn't get out of the car. My Uber driver was scared, and he lives close to South Barranquilla, which is a pretty rundown neighborhood in Barranquilla. In my opinion, this neighborhood is not safe, and if any man or woman tells you to meet them there, I believe you are taking your life into your own hand. And as you can see, this is a vast neighborhood. So have I run that into the ground enough? Hey, it's not safe. Don't go there. Here's a nugget of information that I think you may find helpful. Here is a comparison between Memphis, Tennessee and Cartagena, Colombia of the perceived and safety crime indexes. All statistics are at best a bit flawed, but look at these stats. Now take into account that Memphis has a population of a little less than 650,000, and Cartagena has about 1.2 million people in it. This is not to say that Cartagena is safe for tourists. It is very unsafe for tourists when they don't think, they brag, they showboat, and they're not humble. So let's recap And by the way, you could take this map right here, take a screenshot and print it up, and you can use it on your next visit to Cartagena. To be honest with you, I think from a rough order of magnitude, I think you will find this map very helpful. Okay, so let's take one last orientation with the drone. I took off from Getsemani, and just there to the south is Boca Grande in all of its glory. That whole long peninsula of high-rises, condos, and hotels, that's Boca Grande. Now, as we move to the north and to the west, what you're going to see is, you're going to see a patch of grass come into the scene. Do you see that? That's the park we walked through to get to Getsemani, and in the back there with the aqua, that was Centro and San Diego. So then we move back around to the right, which takes us to the left, and guess what? There it is, Manga and the Basilio San Felipe. We move further to the south, and there's the boat dock I took you through. And then again, it takes us back to Boca Grande, a 360-degree circle, and we come back home to the square, the church square in Getsemani. Listen, I had a great time making this video, and I hope you find it really useful. And until next time, I'll see you later, okay?